The ending of Severance Season 2, Episode 1, leaves us with more questions than answers, but it also drops a major hint about the connection between Mark's work at MDR and Mess, Casey. After the shocking finale of Season 1, where we saw the Ineos attempt to carry out the overtime contingency and glimpse their outies' lives, we were left wondering how things would change in the new season. Episode 1 doesn't dive deep into the consequences of their actions on the outside world, but it hints that Mark and the others were celebrated as heroes for blowing the whistle on Lumon. Instead of focusing on their impact, this season's opener looks more at how Lumon is changing its approach to the Innies, giving them more freedom and autonomy in the workplace. But here's where it gets interesting. There's a lot more going on beneath the surface. If you pay close attention to the small details, you'll realize that there's something much darker happening at Lumon, and it all ties back to Mark and Miss Casey, also known as Gemma. One of the most intriguing moments of this episode comes towards the end. Mark and his team at MDR are back to work, and as Mark sorts through numbers on his screen, we see another computer screen, this one showing Gemma's work. The bins at the bottom of both screens are identical, and the progress bar on both shows the same file name, Cold Harbor. This brief scene could be hinting that Mark is working on Gemma's file. Now, this might not seem like much at first, but think back to Season 1. Many fans theorized that MDR might be helping Lumon refine the severance chips by sorting human emotions into 4 categories: woe, frolic, dread, and malice. If this is the case, then Mark could be working on Gemma's file because he knows her better than anyone else. Remember, Gemma was sent back to the testing room at the end of Season 1 because she showed signs of human emotions, making her less than ideal for Lumon's purpose. It seems that in Episode 1, we get a glimpse of Mark continuing to refine Gemma through the severance process, making her emotions more controllable and in line with Lumon's goals. But what exactly does Cold Harbor mean? The name itself feels cold and distant, which could hint at something more sinister. One theory is that Cold Harbor could refer to cryogenic technology. Perhaps Gemma was put into some kind of suspended cryogenic state after her accident and is believed to be dead. This would explain why she doesn't have an outie. Alternatively, it could mean that through the refinement process, Lumon is trying to turn her into a colder version of herself, emotionally detached and more compliant, perfect for their idea of an ideal employee. As if that wasn't enough to wrap our heads around, there's another crucial development. In this episode, Irving makes a decision to return to MDR, and this is significant. It seems like Irving is beginning to suspect that something is off, especially when we see him questioning the new rules at Lumon. On the other hand, we get a glimpse of what might be Helly's outie, Helena, who might have willingly entered the office instead of the usual Innie Helly. Helena's strange behavior, such as making up a story about talking to a gardener, and her unshaken trust in Lumon, suggests that it might not be Helly's Innie anymore. Could it be that Helly's outie is now actively involved in monitoring the other employees? Then there's Milchick. After everything that happened in Season 1, we expected Lumon to tighten its grip on the Innies. But instead, they seem to be offering them a sense of freedom. The key here is that Lumon is allowing the Innies to leave whenever they want. But is this freedom real? Not at all. It's actually an illusion. By giving the workers a false sense of autonomy, Lumon is manipulating them into staying. The more the Innies believe they have control over their fate, the less likely they are to question Lumon's true intentions. The real goal here is to make them emotionally invested in their lives, inside the office, so they won't be tempted to leave. This is exactly why Mark and the others are reluctant to leave their Innie lives, have become their identity, and they're becoming more detached from the idea of their outies. And then we have the board. Despite the damage caused by the Macrodat uprising, which briefly shook Lumon's reputation, it seems that the board has found a new way to keep the Innies under control. The innies have developed a sense of belonging to each other after working together on the overtime contingency. Lumon is now capitalizing on that emotional bond, understanding that it can be used to keep them in line. This sense of camaraderie might be what keeps them working for Lumon, making them feel like they belong, even when they're being manipulated. So, what does all of this mean for the future of Severance? Well, there's clearly a lot more going on than meets the eye. Mark, Gemma, and the rest of the team are part of something much bigger, and we've only scratched the surface. The idea of control, manipulation, and the loss of personal identity is central to what's happening at Lumon, and it's clear that the company is more powerful and far-reaching than we initially thought. What do you think? Is Cold Harbor the key to unlocking Lumon's true purpose? And is Mark truly working on Gemma's file? Or is there something else happening behind the scenes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to stay tuned for the next episode. This mystery is far from over. As we continue to peel back the layers of Severance Season 2, it's clear that Lumon Industries is far from just a quirky dystopian workplace. The show has always played with the idea of how much control a corporation can have over its employees. But now we're seeing that control extend beyond just the work environment. The true scope of Lumon's power over both the innies and outies is starting to emerge, but we still have so many questions. What is the real purpose behind the emotional tempers that Mark is sorting? How does this connect to the ongoing mysterious developments with Gemma, Ms. Casey? And what's the deeper significance of Cold Harbor? Could this be more than just a cryogenic reference, and perhaps a deeper layer of emotional or psychological manipulation that Lumon is employing to create the perfect employees? There's no doubt that the stakes are higher than ever. The idea that the innies are being given the illusion of freedom is an especially unsettling development. It's clear that Lumon has adapted after the Macrodat uprising, using the camaraderie between the employees as a tool for further manipulation. The permission to leave is not really freedom at all, it's just another way to keep them controlled. As Mark, Irving, Dylan, and Helly try to make sense of their reality, it's becoming harder to tell who's on whose side. Are they truly working together, or is Lumon playing a much deeper game? In this high-stakes environment, trust is both a weapon and a weakness. The employees' growing bonds could eventually be their downfall, but could it also be their strength as they discover the full extent of what's going on at Lumon? Season 2 is sure to take us on a wild ride as we dive deeper into the mystery, with each episode revealing more layers to the twisted world of Severance. We can only hope that our heroes will uncover the truth before it's too late. So, what's next for Mark and the others? What secrets lie in the dark corners of Lumon? We'll have to keep watching to find out, but one thing's for sure, Severance has us hooked, and the truth is more elusive than ever.